Taco Tuesday. It's my favorite day of the week. If you did not already know this, I love Taco Tuesday. So, hello everybody, Crystal Prophet here. If you are brand new to me, welcome. You will find out very quickly that I love Taco Tuesday, coffee, friends, the office, like all the things. But I love to talk about podcasting. And I teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. And I just love talking about podcasting and marketing. And I totally geek out on both of them all the time. So tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and let's just do something fun, do something different today. Tell me what your podcast is and who your audience is. So tell me in the comments, what is the name of your podcast? Who is it for? Or what your topic is about? Tell me in the comments below. And if you're like, I don't have all that figured out yet, well, then just tell us your topic. Tell us what you want to have a podcast about, because this is fun. I love just interacting with people that are coming up with ideas for their podcast. And if you are watching on the replay, then I want you to participate as well. I want you to tell us in the comments what the name of your podcast is, or what the topic is, or who your audience is, who you want to speak to, and all the things, because it's so much fun to learn all the different topics that are covered here in our podcast community, and to learn, y'all, there's like nothing off limits to what people can create a podcast about. And, I've had people say, well, I think I want to do it about this, or I think I might try this, but I just don't know if it's going to work. I've heard all of the things. I've heard and seen all of the different kinds of podcasts, and there is no wrong way to go about like deciding on what your podcast topic is going to be. With a little caveat. Hang on, I said that, but I'm like, is that really true? Is that really true? 100%? There are some mistakes. Okay, don't get me wrong. There are definitely some things you can do wrong when it comes to deciding on your topic. But generally speaking, I just get really excited about people and the different topics that they're going to cover. So I'm so happy you're here. I have two. So you have to share with us, okay? You can't just say, I have two podcasts. You have to tell us, what is the name of your podcast? What is your topic, and who is your audience? Tell me in the comments whether you're just getting started or you are like full-blown already podcasting. Tell me in the comments what your podcast is about. And then tell me also in the comments, okay, I'm trying to think the best way to do this. Tell me the word beginner or starter, either one. Starter seems shorter to type. And I'm just like, oh, beginner, auto check, like spell check. I'm not the best speller there is. But type starter or established. Woo, look at the big vocabulary today. Established. Starter or established to tell me where you are in your email marketing journey. Ooh, we're talking about email marketing this week, y'all. And we are talking all about lead magnets today. This is specifically what today's episode was about. And I wanted to tell you that I have a lot of information about email marketing and using it with a podcast. I actually didn't know this until I went about creating today's episode. Now, don't get me wrong. If you've been around here for a while, you know that I'm constantly adding new ideas, different types of content. If you have a question about it, there's a good chance I have a podcast episode about it, or I'm actively creating one for it. And lead magnets has been something that people have asked me about for a long time. It's like, I want to create, something, a free resource for my podcast, but how do I actually go about sharing it on my show? And so I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and put in the show notes all the different resources that I have on email marketing. I literally thought it was going to be one thing. I was like, I know of one specific podcast episode that I could talk about off the cuff. It's how to grow an email list with the podcast, episode 115. Like, I've got that one memorized. And 15 just so happens to be my favorite number. Only reason why I remember that episode, because I'm like, oh, 115, how to grow an email list with a podcast. Got it. I can't tell you what my actual 15th episode is because that was before we rebranded. But yeah, I looked up all the different email marketing things that we have to share. I'm actually going to show you in the show notes. If you haven't checked out the show notes for today, don't worry, because I'm going to show you where you can look at them and all the different resources, because I think I have close to 10. I think I have at least 8 different resources that I shared with you in the show notes of the podcast that I actually didn't even mention in the podcast episodes. There's YouTube videos, there's podcast episodes, there's interviews with other email marketing experts, like all the things. So if you're just new to email marketing, don't worry, we got you covered. We got you covered. Okay. Kurt says, a moment of gravitas. I'm a beginner, still working down my niche. So tell me who your audience is or what is your topic, because a moment of gravitas, that sounds very interesting, but I can't tell, like, just by looking at it what it's all about. So give me a little more information in the comments. That way I can understand a little bit more about what your show is about. I like the title though, a moment of gravitas. And then it makes me sound fancy. I want to say gravita. I don't think that's how you actually say it, but I feel fancy today. I'm using big words like established and beginner. Y'all, this is ridiculous. Those are not big words, but they are. Established in email, both podcasts is to help teachers sell more resources. One is about focusing on less to make more. Fantastic topic, by the way, focusing on less to make more. And the other is about driving traffic to website and resources using Pinterest. Okay, this is awesome. Awesome, awesome. You're beginner in podcasts, though. That's what she followed up and said. So you're established in your email. So tell me if you are working, so you have 2 separate podcasts. One's to help teachers with more resources or sell more resources. And one is about, oh wait, no, sorry. I said that wrong. Both are to help teachers with more resources. One's about focusing on less to make more. And the other is about driving traffic to websites. So my question is, how are you using your email list, like your email marketing strategy with your podcast? Especially if do you have 2 separate email lists, or do you have your list segmented? If you have 2 separate podcasts, not podcast episodes, 2 podcast shows. If you have 2 shows, do you have 1 email list that's segmented, or do you have 2 email lists? Tell me a little bit more about that, because I have 2 podcasts, but I don't do a ton of heavy promotion for my daily podcast. That's really more of that's a little treat for the people that know about it, that know that it's there. But really, the Potty Report, that's my daily podcast, is for members of the community that really want a behind the scenes on what's going on in my business, in my life, in the different ranty things that I like to share on there. I feel like I like kind of unhinge a little bit more on the Potty Report because I have the opportunity to do that. My daily show is 5 minutes or less, Monday through Friday. And it's just kind of one of those, I have one of our members of the community, Kathy, she told me, she was like, I love listening to your daily podcast when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning. And I was like, oh my gosh, that makes me so happy, because that is exactly what the intention was behind my daily show. I just wanted to have this like quick connection, get to know me a little bit better, get to know my thoughts. I share a lot about the different things that I'm trying either in my business or in my podcast, like the different strategies that I'm thinking about approaching. You could go listen to probably 2 weeks back. We heavily talked about podcast ads and how I'm using them in my show, The Profit Podcast, which is what we're going to talk about here in a second. But I like give you a lot more of the behind the scenes listening to my daily podcast. So I'm wondering how you do your email marketing with 2 separate podcasts, because I don't do a lot of heavy promotion for my daily show. But we are going to talk about lead magnets today. So what is a lead magnet? What is a lead magnet? How do you distribute them on a podcast? That is what we talked about today on the Profit Podcast. And like I said, we're going to actually kind of walk through the show notes here in a second. And I'm going to show you some of the other resources that you go listen to this episode. And then, just go check out the other pieces of the puzzle, because there's not just one, hey, let me sit you down in like a 20-minute podcast episode and explain email marketing to you, because there's so many nuances that I continue to learn as I keep growing my email list. I keep exploring ways to distribute my lead magnets and talk about them in different ways on my show, whenever I'm guesting on someone else's show, whenever I'm guest posting on someone else's, platform or program. Like, there's so many different ways that email marketing is a constant evolution, kind of like a podcast. And so it's an ever learning process. So if you're just brand new and you're like, I don't even know why I need an email list, what is a lead magnet? It's okay. We got you covered. Do not worry about it. So, Curtis says, empowering everyday people with helpful tips to success in school and employment, individuals in education, and who are in the workforce. Awesome. This is fantastic. Yeah, it's definitely, because you gave me the name, now we can kind of zoom in a lot more and pinpoint exactly who your audience is. Yes, thank you for sharing. And then that's the problem. I know how to email to make sales, but my podcasts are both in pre-launch stage. So I started a wait list, and right now it's segmented to 2 different ones. Yeah, so that's the only issue I see, happening in the future is like, is there a way to overlap both of them to make your life easier? I'm all about making your life easier and making sure that your message is still clear without having like a lot of nuances of like, oh wait, I forgot. I have to make sure and talk to this part of my audience this way, and then I have to talk to this part of my audience this other way, and I don't want the overlap to be confusing. Yeah, I've totally been there, which is actually why I did a big rebrand at the end of 2020 for my membership community. That wasn't really aligned with what I was doing in my course and my other program. So I had to like really think about, how can I talk to all of my audience while still having like a fluid line, like a fluid runner of a theme that's going to work from the time that someone comes into my world, whether it's, watching me here on a Facebook Live, listening to my podcast, watching a YouTube video, whatever it is. I want someone to understand how the message works, like all the way through the funnel, all the way through the pipeline of everything that's going on here. Yeah, so this is really cool. Because of you, I started my podcast. Awesome. Yes, congratulations. This is fantastic. Yeah, please follow me. Thank you. Love your videos. Help me a lot. And buy me a coffee. It is good to use it as sponsors for content creation for Monetize. Yes. So I've heard of this as well. I've seen this. I first saw this on YouTube, actually. And I've seen a little, like, trickling a little bit more into podcasting. But for those of you that don't know, Buy Me a Coffee is similar to Patreon, where it's like a donation platform. Like, hey, if you like what you see or you like what you hear, whether it's on YouTube or your podcast, you can say you can go to Buy Me a Coffee. And I guess like it's just the same. Like, I don't know how it works on the back end because I've never done it. I've never set it up for myself. So I'm curious if you set the dollar amount and then someone just clicks, oh, I want to do $5 or $3. I don't really know how that works, but very cool. Very cool. You'll have to share your experience with Buy Me a Coffee. Oh, I'm so excited about your podcast. So you'll have to tell us in the comments, what is the name of your show? What is your topic? And who are the people that you serve? Tell us in the comments. Yeah. I segment them only because there are 2 shows and so many people, and some people only want one. Interesting. So my question would be, do you see, like, is there a need for 2 podcasts? I feel like we're getting into a little coaching session here. The only reason why I ask that is because if some people only want one, Are you launching both shows at the same time, or are you launching one and then you have plans to eventually have the other one? Because I see podcast burnout in your future. Ooh, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it, but I see it. I see it. I see it coming. I see it happening. And I want you to avoid this at all costs. I want you to avoid this at all costs because I've seen it happen too many times where people get split in two directions and they have one piece of content or one show that they're producing that they love. Like their heart's in it, their passion's in it. They love talking to their guests. They love talking to their audience and engaging with them and talking about it. And then they have this redheaded stepchild over here, right? Like, terrible analogy, but it's so true. It's like, I just don't know that I have as much passion for this, other thing that I'm doing over here as much as I have in the other one. So that would be the only word of caution is don't walk into it with too much of expectation of I don't know if my message is going to be split, which by the way, now that I said that out loud, I don't like the analogy redheaded stepchild. It's so terrible. I don't have any stepchildren. I'm not a stepchild, but I can imagine being a redhead and being a stepchild. That's kind of offensive, right? So I apologize. All of our redheaded stepchildren out there in the world, let's kill that saying forever. From now on, that just it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good to say that. Yeah, because I have been coaching people in both together. Okay, so in both different concepts, you've been coaching them together for almost 8 years. So they're both mini shows, 10 minutes or less to get people to take action. Okay, awesome. As long as you feel good about it. Okay, as long as you feel, okay, I'm confident that this is the direction I want to go. Again, I'm going to caution you about having two separate podcasts. It happens, and a lot of people do it, but I would just walk into both of them with the expectation that you may lean more towards one over the other in 6 months from now. So that's just me telling you from experience. It was about a year into my show when I made a hard pivot from what I was doing, and then I rebranded to what I'm doing today. And so just kind of know that happens, and this is a natural process. I look at all of my students and members of my community, and they actually go through this as well, where, it's like, I think this is how I want to start, and this is what I want to do, whether it's the topic or the audience that they want to speak to. And then as they get going and they get momentum, and then they realize, oh, wait, I actually want to change the title to be more niche down or more inclusive of a broader audience, or I want to change the tagline. I want to change who I'm speaking to very directly because I realize these are the people that I want to serve. So just kind of know if that happens, it's natural. I think it happens to most podcasters when they first get started. I actually have someone who's coming on the show on Thursday. We already did the interview, but I was, editing and listening to it again today. And she was talking about she's renamed her show multiple times. And she said, and she has been podcasting. I want to say she said since 2017. And so she's been through many iterations of what the show was about, what the name of the show was. And she finally landed on what it is today. And she said, man, when we finally dialed in exactly who we were talking to, everything just shot up, everything exploded, because it's just a process of really refining and tuning who you want to talk to, what your topic is about, and the content that you want to create. So just everybody hear that. If you're brand new, if you've been doing this for a while and you're like, I just don't really have it dialed in, it's part of the process. It really is. Every podcaster I talk to, even some of the bigger podcasts that I've watched over the years, we're talking about since 2015, there have been many podcasts that I've watched that have changed names. They've changed everything. They've rebranded, and it happens. It's natural. So just know that if you start with something today and you don't love it, you can absolutely change things in the future. Absolutely do it. And I just encourage you to get started. Get started. Okay, this is the hardest part of podcasting, is just hitting publish, putting it out there, and watching to see what people respond to and what kind of topics they want you to talk about or they want you to cover. Yeah. That's what I think will happen, especially now because the episodes are 5 minutes because I batch recorded from your tips. Awesome. Awesome. So one day it will probably be one and launching separately. Okay. I'm excited for you. I'm excited. Tell us in the comments when your launch date is because I know you said you're going to be launching soon. So tell us. Hi, Arian. So happy that you're here. We are just chatting about podcasting, email marketing, and we're actually going to get into the show notes for today's episode. So today's podcast episode is how to distribute a lead magnet on a podcast. And if you missed it earlier, I was telling you that I didn't realize how many really cool resources that we have for people that are trying to create a list building strategy with their podcast. So let's go here. So if you go to the crystalprofit.com/episode 227, these are the show notes. This is what you're going to see. So these are the topics that we cover, especially in this. If you have not checked out the Potty Podcast Toolkit, go check it out. There's a special link here on this page. You can go check it out and learn more about what that is. But it's our most affordable resource that's really quick, and it's like meant to give you really fast wins, especially if you were getting ready to launch your show. But it's fantastic. It's so awesome. And then this is what I wanted to show you down here. Okay, y'all, I told y'all. Okay, so I have 7. I have 7 additional resources that we talked about. So let me zoom in a little bit. All right, so we have 4 podcast episodes about email marketing and 3 YouTube videos, okay? We have lots of resources about building an email list with a podcast. And I think it's important to note that if you're just getting started, this is where I recommend you starting. Actually, I should have put these in the reverse order because I think it goes from newest to oldest. But how to grow an email list with a podcast is where I would start if you're getting like just brand new. If you're wondering, well, is an email list better than social media? Which one should I focus on? If that's your question that you've been wondering, go listen to this episode and you'll understand why an email list is very important and something that I hold in a higher regard over my Instagram or Facebook. Like my email list is bigger than my Instagram following. Okay. And whenever I do a launch, I send out like I'm doing a workshop or I'm doing, my toolkit, I'm doing a promotion for my program. I always get a better response from my email list than I ever do on social media. So that's just to kind of give you some context. And then podcast, website, and emails. This was a great conversation with Erica. She is a copywriting expert and she does a fantastic job. What is the name of her podcast? Is it Makeover Your Marketing? I'm pretty sure. So shout out Erica. She has a fantastic podcast where she goes really deep into email marketing and how to create better email sequences to have a better connection with your audience. And then email marketing, Bobby Klink, he has the certified online, oh my gosh, y'all, I'm totally going to butcher it. Certified online business badass something. Sorry, Bobby. Totally butchered the name of your podcast. Certified online badass business expert. Y'all, this is so terrible. I'm totally butchering his podcast, but you can find it. If you just look up Bobby Klink, you will find it. And we have it linked in the show notes for that one. Growing email list with a podcast. This really goes hand in hand with this podcast episode, but if you're more of a visual person, this is a great one because it's actually a presentation that I did in 2019 and there's like clips of the presentation in there. And then 3 reasons why you need email list, and then your first podcast lead magnet. So y'all, you have hours of content here. If you are just brand new to email marketing and list building, then this is where I recommend you start. Go to episode 227, go check it out, go look at all of these. Make sure you listen to the podcast episode came out today, all about lead magnets. But if you're like, I don't even know where to start, then go to the links in there and start looking at those videos and everything. So Arian says, yeah, I'm about to finish a lead magnet pack for my podcast audience. I'll make it available on my show notes, on Podia, my website, my Facebook page, but I wonder if there's even better way to grow my email list. So Arian, I have found when it comes to sharing my lead magnets, the ones that I always have the most, like the best response is something I created directly for my audience. So I'm trying to think, one of my best performing lead magnets of all time was my boot camp. So I had a 5-day podcast boot camp that I've promoted forever. We're actually retiring it soon because it's so good. Y'all, I know you're like, wait, Crystal, that doesn't make any sense. It was so good that it was converting really high. It was getting a lot of people fantastic results, but it was so good that people were like grabbing the boot camp, going through all the processes, and then that they had everything they needed, that they didn't need my programs, they didn't need my services, they didn't need any of the other resources, paid resources that I had. But it gave me like an aha moment of like, oh, this is what people really need. And so what we've done is we packaged a lot of the information that we had in the boot camp and we put it into our Potty Podcast toolkit, right? Because we can't give everything away for free. I wish that I could, but my best advice to you is to lead with something that you know is your audience's biggest pain point. And then when you go to promote it, tell them how it's going to solve their problem. Not just, I have this fantastic resources, go grab it. You need it. Tell them why. Why do they need it? It's going to save them time. Is it going to save them money? Is it going to save their sanity? Is it going to help them have better relationships? Is it going to, like whatever the thing is that it's really going to help them. Make sure you address that and say it over and over and over and over again. I got so sick of telling people what this fantastic resource was and how it could help them. And that's when you know that you're on the right track. When you get so sick of hearing yourself say it over and over and over again, it's probably just now really hitting your audience's ears in a way that's going to prompt them to take action. So just know that like from the bottom of my heart, I'm going to tell y'all, sometimes I will go back and listen to my own podcast or my YouTube videos and I hear myself saying, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. And I will cringe because I've heard it thousands of times at this point. Like maybe you've heard it a couple dozen. Maybe you've heard me say it once or twice. Y'all, I have had keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. This is my tagline. It's been my tagline since day one. Okay, it's been 3.5 years of me saying that over and over and over again, but it's just now getting to the point where other people are saying, oh yeah, you have the keep it up tagline. You have to repeat yourself. So you may get so sick of hearing yourself say the URL. And that's another, like that would be another like really quick tip. And we did talk about this in today's episode when we talk about distributing your lead magnet. You want to make sure it's a very easy to remember URL. So Arian, I don't know what your website name is, but if it was Arian Jax, right? If that's your website, arianjax.com, and then you have lead magnet, I'm going to say free. Make it very easy. It'll be easier for you to remember it. So you're not racking your brain like, wait, what was that URL? What was I supposed to say? You want it to be easy for you. You want it to be easy for your audience too. Because if someone tells me, then, okay, so it's I'm going to say this wrong. INFJ Journey. That's the Myers-Briggs, right? So it's the infjjourney.com/freebie. Totally making that up. But be able to say that over or /free/ something that's very easy for you to remember and for your audience to see it over and over and over again. And they're like, oh yeah, she told me that there was going to be, a free resource, or she said on the podcast that this is where I need to go grab it. Or I saw it on their website. This is what I need to go do. This is where it is. They may hear it 4 or 5 times, okay, before they ever take action. I do this. I bet you do this as well, especially on a podcast. I'm listening to a show, I'm doing the dishes, I'm folding laundry, I'm walking the dog, I'm working out, right? I can't always go do the thing that I need to do like right then and there. But if I hear it enough times, I'm like, oh yeah, Arian told me that she had a fantastic resource. What was that again? I need to go grab that. I need to go get it. And it needs to be something that people are like, I don't want to wait to grab it. Like it's that like, oh, I want to, and I don't like the clickbaity stuff where people are like, oh, save $1,000 in 5 minutes, because it's clickbait. And I think that it's good to stick to integrity and something of value. But I do think a great title can work whenever it's something like the shock and awe factor. Okay, perfect example. 500 podcast ideas for any industry. This is probably my second most popular, most downloaded freebie I've ever had. And it was something that I just thought, and it's 554. I always forget. It's 554 or 545. I always get those numbers transposed. But it's one of those things that I'm like, it's easy for me to remember. It's easy for me to tell it to my audience. And it's just one of those things that people are like, are there really 500? Is she's just yanking my chain, right? Like there's not really 500 there. That sounds absurd. I'm going to go download this and see if that's what she really has. So you want to make sure that it's like that attention grabbing thing that your audience really wants. Yeah. Oh, awesome. I'd like to take full advantage of my near 1,000 podcast downloads. Awesome. Yes, definitely take advantage. And then, Arian, I'm trying to remember, do you have Buzzsprout? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if you did. I don't know if you told me that you have Buzzsprout, you use them or not, but you can absolutely, and I talk about this in today's episode, you can use the custom brand in Buzzsprout to also talk about your episode. Yeah, so you do use Buzzsprout. Okay, awesome. So you could go into custom brands and set up like an affiliate link, even though it's not an affiliate, but it would be there. That's one way. You could put it in the episode description, and you could also put it in the dynamic content. If you wanted to try out dynamic content, if you haven't done that before, there's a YouTube video on dynamic content, on how it works and how you can use it for different ways. But yeah, using it for your lead magnet is a fantastic way. Like, talk about a very specific call to action that's like, hey guys, before we get into today's episode, I wanted to tell you about my free resource. Give them the title of it. Here's who it's for. Here's how it can help you. And here's why you need to go download it today. You can grab it at, and then give them the URL. We actually have an episode coming up in the next few weeks about podcast ad templates. It was something that Elder, shout out Elder, if you're here watching us or you're watching on the replay, you inspired this podcast episode. But it was all about creating templates for your ads, like scripting what to say, when to say it, where does it go best, and just kind of giving you some ideas. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a big fan of templates, like giving you like on a silver platter, here, this is exactly what you need to say, because I think that that's been too done. Like, it's overdone in the podcast space where I can go listen to, and I'm not going to point them out. I'm not going to tell you which podcast, but I can go listen to certain podcasts and say, oh, they learned from this person and they use the exact same template that this other podcast over here uses. And then it kind of sounds like they sound very similar. They sound a lot alike. And I'm just not a fan of that. I'm a fan of, you can use your own templates. Like, if you want to create something and you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to say in all of my podcast ads or in all of my free resources, whatever the case may be. I'm a fan of you creating your own templates to make your business and your life run easier, but I'm not a fan of just serving to you exactly what to say every single week. The launch is a different story. If you want to learn more about the launch, because I just like randomly scrolled past the toolkit, but in the toolkit, we actually have templates for launching your podcast that are gosh, social media posts. We have email marketing strategies that are like, hey, we're launching on this date at this time. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you need to subscribe and like be like all the things that tell your audience how to be ready for when your launch comes. But that's just like one specific thing. That's launching your podcast. Outside of that, I'm just not a huge fan of templates and telling people exactly what to do, because then it just feels super scripted, right? I'm just not a fan of everything feeling scripted. So, oh wait, what were you saying? Yeah, loving all the tips. Yes, I'm so glad this is helpful, y'all. I love coming here every week. I think that this is so much fun to get to hang out with y'all. I'm wondering if it's relevant to my podcast, the dynamic content. So the dynamic content is just one of those things that you can use it multiple ways, many different ways. You can use it for free promotions, like exactly what you're talking about. If you want to promote your podcast, like Lead Magnet. Now, Arian, I'm trying to remember how long it's been since you started your podcast, but where dynamic content comes into play is if you upload an ad into dynamic content, right? You have an audio clip that's like, hey guys, I have a brand new free resource. Here it is. Here's who it's for. Here's where you can get it. When you upload it as dynamic content, it's applied to all of your podcast episodes. So not just you saying it in an episode and then people hear it. Okay, so she said she's been podcasting for 3 months. So everything you've done from today backwards to 3 months ago would have your lead magnet on every single episode. If you put it in the pre-roll, then it would say, hey, before we get into today's episode, we have a brand new resource. We want you to hear about it. So whether it's someone's first time listening to your show or the 25th time that they've listened to your podcast, they're all going to hear it in every single episode. And remember what we were talking about earlier, it's that repetition. Like you're going to get sick of saying it. People will get sick of hearing it too, but it's one of those things. It's like kind of like driving past a billboard on the side of the road. Some people will notice it. Some people won't notice it until it's like, oh, wait, I need a tire repair shop. I think I saw that, down the road. It's the same concept with any other kind of marketing. People may hear it a few times. They're like, oh, that's great. Arian has a new resource, until it's like, oh, I need that. That is for me. I'm going to go grab it right now. So that's just something to consider. Yeah, dynamic content can work great for all stages of podcasting. I didn't know you can put it in the custom links in Buzzsprout. Thought it was only for brands and affiliate links. Yep, you can put whatever you want in there. You can absolutely put whatever you want in there. I've put my own, let me see. I've done my affiliate links. I've done, what's the other one that I have in there? You can do, as long as it's a valid URL, it doesn't matter what you put in there. So it's just another way to promote it. It will just have that disclaimer that says, by the way, this is an affiliate link. And so, but it's not. It's just your free resource. So it's just up to you on how you want to use it. But it is an option. It's absolutely an option to do that. And then my podcast intro and outro after the dynamic content. Yeah. So you would create your podcast exactly how you've been creating it right now to this point. You would just do the same thing, say the same thing. And then let's pretend that you've been promoting this lead magnet in every episode already. And you're like, I don't want it to sound redundant. I don't want it to be the same thing. Well, you could take a different spin on it. You could start by telling a story, right? And these ads, you only have up to 5 minutes to do them on the dynamic content on the pre-roll and on the post-roll in Buzzsprout. But it gives you an opportunity to really push people to understand why they need your lead magnet. Okay. And I don't know much about what your lead magnet, if it's helping people or, saving them time, saving them money, helping them better understand their I'm going to say it wrong, INFJ journey better, but really taking just a different approach. Because I've heard many podcasters repeat themselves over and over again, just like ads. Like, how many people have listened to a podcast about ZipRecruiter? Right? We all know that ZipRecruiter is one of the biggest people that has pushed a lot of marketing dollars into podcasts. Okay. I hear them all the time. ZipRecruiter, ZipRecruiter, ZipRecruiter. And the reason why I know this is because I've listened to so many podcasts. I've heard it so many times. But I got to tell you, if I'm going to hire somebody, oh gosh, that was really loud. I got to go pick up my son in just a second. So we're going to hop off here. But if I was going to hire somebody, what company am I probably going to look at first at promoting and like putting out an ad? Probably ZipRecruiter because I've heard them so many times, but I've heard it in so many different ways from different podcasters. So just keep that in the back of your mind. The last thing that I want to add is this Thursday, coming up this Thursday, and I want to put it on here. We are having here it is. We're having our podcast audits. So this is happening in our free Facebook group. And if you want to have your podcast audited, I recommend you join us. If you ever wanted to, if you're like, gosh, I wish Crystal would like get her eyes on my podcast, on what I'm creating, whether it's your podcast script, your podcast outline, your marketing strategy, if it's an audio file, it's your artwork, whatever the case may be, I encourage you to apply. You can go to crystalprofit.com/podcast audit, and it's a Google form, and it will just walk you through all the things that you need to fill out. You won't have to be there live if you can't make it. We're starting at 10:30 a.m. Central on Thursday. So on the 11th, we're going to be starting. It's going to be really fun. We had so much fun in January doing these, and they're going to happen in our free Facebook group. So the Profit Podcast online community, if you are not there, you're missing out. There's so many incredible podcasters. I think that we're getting close to 700 podcasters in our group, and we just continue to grow and expand, and it's just so much fun. So we'd love to have you join us. The podcast audits on this Thursday. I'm sad I don't have Facebook. That is okay? Because we get to hang out here on YouTube, and I know that we've chatted back and forth on Instagram. So if you have any questions, let me know. We may open these up on Thursday to YouTube as well. This is something that we've considered, but we'll have to see. We'll say that. We'll have to see. If you want to participate, you can apply, and we'll see what happens. Maybe we will open this month's up to having more people, because I want more podcasters to feel confident in their strategies that they're using on a regular basis and knowing that they're on the right track. So if that's you, if you sound like you're interested, or if you are interested, go to crystalprofit.com/podcast audit, and I'll be in contact with you after you apply, let you know that you've been chosen for this month's free podcast audits. But that's all I have for y'all today, guys. Y'all have a fantastic Taco Tuesday. And as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Bye, y'all.